All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Steve Malzberg Show. And, there has been a trial going on in New York City, a long-awaited trial, and a trial that's coming to an end. Stop and Frisk. And Stop and Frisk is a program instituted by NYPD that has been wildly successful. The murder rate in this city has gone down over many, many years from over 2,000 to under 500. Most of the lives that are saved are those of minorities in this city because most of the crime committed insofar as violent crime and murders are against minorities. Yet there are people who say it's unconstitutional, it's got to stop, it should stop, it better stop. And now Eric Holder, you may have heard that name. Anybody familiar with that name, Eric Holder? Has weighed in and has filed a brief on the last possible day that you could file a brief, in truly the 11th hour, saying that if the judge in this case, and it's a trial by judge, should find that Stop and Frisk is unconstitutional, the Justice Department will move to have a federal oversight of NYPD. Now, this is highly unusual. Commissioner Raymond Kelly, the police chief, and Mayor Bloomberg not taking this too well. And joining us now is New York City mayoral candidate George McDonald. Hey, George.
Steve, great to be here.
Good to see you again. Okay, so what do you make of this?
It's hard to understand why in the world they're concentrating on New York City when in their own backyard in Chicago, it's unsafe to walk down a lot of the streets there. So they ought to be emulating what we do in New York City, using our practices here to solve crime in the rest of the country. But what are they doing? Just the opposite of that. It boggles the imagination what's in their mind.
Why do you think? What is the motivation? I mean, it appeared that, the deadline, like I said, was Tuesday night at midnight or whatever, or Wednesday, and they waited to the last possible second and stated that if the decision goes one way, here's what we're going to do. Well, how unusual is that?
I hate to suggest that they're listening to the judge, You
mean NSA?
Yes,
Prism?
of course. They may be reading the emails between he and his clerk or listening to his telephone conversations with the private conversations about the case with the people that work for him. Who knows? They obviously know something that we don't. But the truth is that they're trying to influence the decision, obviously. I mean, this is a federal judge. Who appoints federal judges?
Right.
Who promotes federal judges?
But I'm trying to think which way they're trying to influence. If it's declared constitutional, I would think the Justice Department would be unhappy and they would have a problem, and I don't think they would just let it lie. They would try maybe even appeal it or something, or have it appealed, because they don't want it.
Well, but this suit is brought by some local people.
Local people, yeah, not the feds.
Right.
I understand
and
that.
not people from the community, I might tell you. It's the Center for Constitutional Rights, which is not in East New York, Brooklyn,
Right.
or Harlem,
Right.
or any of the affected
Outsiders.
high-crime areas.
Right. But so if it's declared unconstitutional, what the Attorney General is saying is it will be a aha moment. And he's going to say, aha, you see, NYPD cannot be trusted. And now we're going to put in a federal monitor. And I mean, that's also what I take from this. So he's hoping naturally it will be declared unconstitutional, but that won't be good enough for him, because then he's going to say, now that it's been found that what you've been doing is unconstitutional, albeit successful, now I'm going to make sure you never do anything like that again. I mean, am I reading that right?
Well, you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to ruin the morale of the police department. On my way over here, I had a conversation with a police officer, a man of color. And he said these politicians have their heads in the part of the body that we
I thought you were going to say in the sand, but
we won't share with your family listeners. But the point is that I have lived through New York City in the bad old days when I couldn't let my daughter go to the corner to get a slice of pizza at 9 o'clock at night on 84th and 2nd, where the police were driving by the guy sitting on my stoop smoking crack cocaine and looking and then turning, because nobody appreciated them and nobody wanted them to do their job. We can get back to those bad old days very, very quickly with this federal interference.
What do you think, George, is the motivation? And when you think about it, because anybody with any common sense and anybody who would look at this,
wait, common sense now, common sense. You have to stop there, because after all, these are the same people that tried to have the trial of 9/11 downtown here in Manhattan, and thought that was a good idea, that made sense.
All right, maybe
that didn't make very much sense to anybody.
Maybe
in New
I'm
York City.
being too charitable. You're absolutely right. I should, but you look at the statistics, you see the success, you see how minority lives have been saved by this program, and other lives have been saved by this program, and they want to demoralize the police. They want to take over the police. They want to not let them do what's been successful. And yet, so why? Why do
it's
you
just
think?
A reflection of what the city council in New York City.
Yes,
So
the same.
It's a whole group of people all lined up in a row to the top, you see. And that's the problem. The city council wants to pass a bill that has an inspector general over the police department. So not only would we have a federal monitor, we would have an inspector general. Now, these two positions are not elected by the people of the city of New York. They're not beholden to anybody but themselves. They're a creation of some political emotion. Yeah. And it's very, very wrong.
And so Eric Holder would get to appoint the federal monitor if
I guess
there is one
so.
appointed?
I mean, who would? Or President Obama.
And how do you think Ray Kelly would react? Do you think he would resign? Do you think
he would? Ray is not the kind of a guy to walk away from a fight.
True, but he would have oversight. He would have to answer. It wouldn't be Ray Kelly anymore calling the shots.
I'm more concerned about what happens after the Bloomberg administration is finished, and that this is an effort to influence the election, in my judgment.
All right, how so?
That's the answer. Well,
how
because the one of the leading candidates, not the one who tweeted his body parts. He's not so much a candidate as a celebrity.
Right.
But one of the leading candidates is the Speaker of the City Council.
Quinn, yeah.
All right. So she's the one that's a sponsor of this independent police monitor bill. And wouldn't it be great that the federal government supports her position, you see? And Bill de Blasio, another leading candidate, he has the same position. So the Democrats who are running for mayor are being supported by the Democratic National Administration. There's no doubt about it. Why would they want to interfere with this success when people's lives depend on it? Individual human beings' lives, and as you said, mostly people of color. And the only reason that people are stopped, questioned, and frisked is when they're in a high crime area.
No, you're absolutely right. We're talking to George McDonald. He's running for mayor as a Republican here in New York City. So what else has come to light since the last time we talked? Anything else that's cropped up in the campaign that you'd like to get off your chest here?
Well, no. I mean, we've been having a lot of fun going out and having forums and meeting people, and it's been very interesting. The problem with our politics today is that people don't participate. And they don't participate because they believe that most of the politicians are all in it for themselves.
Right.
And then as people continually get arrested in Albany, I call it a slow motion crime wave, 36 or 37 after the past 5 or 6 years, and more coming, promises.
There's always more coming,
of many to come, that it's hard to get people to participate. And then you have what I see as a lack of moral recognition. We have a leading candidate for mayor who would not be allowed to teach our children in our school system for what he did.
That's interesting.
He tweeted out pictures of his private parts to students, to
and
children.
Lied about it. Yeah.
And lied. Well, the lying goes to
one thing. Yeah.
Goes to character. The moral turpitude is in the very act. So here he's running for a position where he wouldn't be able to supervise teachers.
That's amazing. I did not know that. And any polls? Any?
Well, the last poll had me rising, and everybody.
Good.
Republican,
well, that's the way it should go.
That's
the way it should go. Yeah. And as we get closer and we get closer, do you see one thing emerging, or do you predict that one thing will dominate voters' minds as opposed to the other issues?
I think that there are basically, I'm for full employment.
Right.
So that's my main goal.
Yeah, we talked about that last time.
That's my main goal, and I believe that public safety is only going to be enhanced by getting everybody who comes home from prison a job, and we wouldn't have to worry about these high crime areas if we actually help the kids who are 18 to 26 years old work.
Yeah.
So we can do that. But the people of New York City are concerned about their safety as they walk down the street, and to be free of terrorism, not to be concerned about terrorism. Those are important things. Education is important, and the economy. Getting city workers to pay a fair share of their health insurance costs, and no givebacks.
You mean a half of a half of a half of a percent? They can't afford
I mean
that.
20%,
I'm
25%.
kidding, but that's
just like everybody else does.
Do you think the mayor, in the long run, might endorse a Republican because of this stance by the Democratic candidates, with regard to the police department?
Well, I gave up saying what the mayor was going to do a long time ago, because he's a very smart and bright man, and I would think that it would have some influence on him. He's concerned about his legacy. I've said many times before that I think that he's a great man and has been a great mayor. There are many things that he's done that are good for the city, and he's concerned about the inevitability of those plans coming to fruition.
So he might, if it's Christine Quinn or one of the Democrats who are backing that, and you who are not. I mean, he might throw a support.
He did say the other day that I had the executive experience requisite to being mayor, and he understands being mayor that you have to have an executive background.
Well, maybe maybe he's laying the groundwork there.
Well,
you never know.
I'll take it each day.
There you go, George McDonald, Republican mayoral candidate.